Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Locker Room, our podcast that we send out every week where we highlight the kids in our area in the Bayou region with all of the things they are doing at their schools related to sports. Glad to have you with us. I'm Stan Gravois. Along with me is the producer of the show, Dustin Roby Show. Dustin, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this because I don't understand the behind the scene type things. So it's always a pleasure to have you here with me.
Appreciate it, Stan.
And I also want to say this too, where you're probably going to kill me for saying this, but Dustin was actually awarded this past week with the Graphic Designer of the Year in the state of Louisiana for the LHA.
That's
I wanted
correct.
to say LHSAA, but the LHSAA, which is what? Louisiana Hospitals Association?
Louisiana Hospital Association, yes, sir.
That's a great award.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a great honor. I was not expecting it, and I do not like being the center of attention, which is why I am behind the camera.
Well, again, glad to have you here doing this because if you don't, we don't have this to put out on a weekly basis. And listen, for you folks out there that are wondering why we do this, again, it is to promote our student athletes in our schools in the Bayou region. If you're here to find sports information on the Saints or the Pelicans or LSU or Nicholls State University, wrong place. It's not what we do. We are here to promote the kids in the schools, the programs in the schools, and the schools themselves. We also want to remind you, if you have time, go subscribe to our page. Again, it comes out every Monday, today being November 18th. We're going to talk a little bit about a lot of things because it's playoff time. Playoffs.
Playoffs?
Yeah.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
We are going to talk about the high school football playoffs that actually got started this past week. We're going to talk about the playoffs in volleyball. Unfortunately, we had a couple of teams vying to maybe compete for a state championship, but it just didn't work out. And then you have swimming and cross country that are having state championships, respectively, over in Sulphur and in Natchitoches this week. So we want to talk about that a little bit too. Got a great lineup for you. Very fortunate to have Casey Gisclair. He's going to talk with us a little bit today. Everybody knows Casey in the area, as Casey is a proponent of high school sports, and he's a great ambassador to get the word out there. Going to kind of shine a little light on CCA. Covenant Christian Academy is having a terrific fall, and our friend Randy Boquet, the athletic director there, spent a little time with us, and he talks about the success that they're having, so that's going to be fun. Actually going to do something else at CCA too. We had a big signing during the week. Mason Canter decided to cast his lot with Nicholls State to play baseball, and I was fortunate enough to be over there at the sanctuary for the First Baptist of Houma Church, again, Covenant Christian. And it was a very, very nice ceremony that they had, and we're going to hear a little bit of why Mason chose Nicholls State. So again, a very good show. Starting it off with high school football. Unfortunately, on the 5A level, had some trouble in our area. We thought Terrebonne might get by Chalmette in that first round game that they played. Terrebonne was a number 9 seed. Chalmette was way down there at 20-something, and it just didn't work out for the Tigers. Chalmette comes away with a 20-17 win. Looked like Terrebonne was going to win that one. Looked like they had it in hand at some points of the game, but it got away from them. Actually, was at that game and was a little surprised, but Chalmette hung in there tough. And they come back and they win it on a last-second field goal. Actually, a field goal at the very end of the game to win that one. H.L. Bourgeois was the lower seed against Hornville, and they played extremely well. They go out to Hornville, and they give Hornville everything they can handle, and they lose it 49-39. So a great year for H.L. Bourgeois. And our final 5A school from the local area, Thibodaux High, went out to play Mandeville. And unfortunately for the Tigers of Thibodaux, they lose that one 31-16. Made a good showing against a good Mandeville team. But now all of our 5A schools are out. But when you get down to Division II, you got E.D. White and Vanderbilt, and they're in pretty good shape, folks. They're going to be playing this week in the second round. Remember, they got a bye in the first round. This I find interesting. Vanderbilt is going to be playing Archbishop Hannon. Archbishop Hannon this week, at home, has 1 win on the year. They're in the playoffs, they're in the second round, and they have 1 win this year. Not to be outdone, basically, E.D. White is playing a team in Livingston Collegiate, which I had never really heard of before, who does have 5 wins, but most of them against single A and double A teams. So I think you're going to see our 2 Division II select teams advance rather easily. And then you have CCA, who's going to be taking on their rival in Division IV football. They're going to be taking on Central Catholic because Central Catholic got by their team, Lincoln Prep, this week. Really good game. 14-0 was the final count in that one. And that's going to be a good game. That game going to be played at Nicholls State University. We were very fortunate to talk to Jesse Turner a little bit this week as he came on to Sports on the Bayou, and he talks about that matchup with Central Catholic this week.
Welcome back to Sports on the Bayou. It is my pleasure to have here with me the head coach of CCA. Let me rephrase that. The undefeated head coach of the CCA Lions, Jesse. Yeah. Couldn't happen to a better guy. Such a great guy. You guys defeat Central Catholic on Thursday night. A big game because it's sort of a rival game, but also because you could go 10-0 and you win District 7 1A if you do it. And listen, folks, they won it actually rather easily. Is it what you thought it would be?
I wouldn't say it was easy. It was definitely a tough game. It was a hard-fought game. They had a few turnovers in the red zone, and that we maximized. And so it was a tough-fought game. But our guys came out and played well. We executed when we needed to. Defense played well. Offense, made some plays. So it was an exciting game, especially to go 10-0 and win the district championship for the first time in a few years.
So they get a bye in the first round of the playoff. Yeah. Actually, one of the top 4 seeds. So where you want to be. I know you guys sort of looked at things. There's a chance of seeing that same team again. Yeah. So the team he ended the year with will probably be. I'm sure the folks at Central Catholic hope it is the team you're going to play in the first round, right?
Yes, and it's always tough to beat a team twice. But the good thing for us is we didn't play 100% well, so there's a lot of things that we can make adjustments on. And we challenge our guys every week anyway, right? So again, it will be a new challenge for us, and we'll be ready if that time comes. But they got to go out and beat Lincoln Prep, who I think is a good team as well.
Listen, you started laying the foundation last year. Of course, for people who don't know, Jesse was a terrific player at Ellen Memorial, a terrific player at Nicholls, where he was an all-conference player as a running back there. Ends up at CCA. Kind of nice to have your son there at CCA playing too. Yep. Laid a little bit of an infrastructure last year. It's sort of coming to fruition this year, right?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time about setting the standard. And right now we're still setting that standard, man. It's about putting the team on the field that's going to compete every play hard. We may not be the biggest, we may not be the fastest, right? But again, every time we go out there and play, we're going to play the way we want to play. We're going to try to dictate the tempo. And we're just going to be a nice, physical, scrappy team, and that's what we love.
Tell us who you have at the table also.
At the table right now, we have our head principal, Mr. Hutchison. We have our phenomenal receiver coach right there, Coach Malachi Ayo. We have our young special teams coordinator who's doing a fabulous job as well, Coach B. Cole. I also have my dad with me as well, Jesse Turner Sr.
Right. I got to ask you, you know your dad was coming?
I did not know my dad was coming. Mr. Hutch and Coach Jackson at the school, they invited him, and it's definitely a pleasure to see him here.
We had secret talks on Friday, and Hutch and those guys said they were going to get him here. So that's great for you. Awesome. Such a great guy. Glad those things are happening. Keys to winning it all for you, and I know you don't want to look that far down the road, but the things that have to sort of happen well.
The biggest thing for us is just take it day by day, right, and just focus on us. Just focus on the things that we've been making errors on all year long, and try to fix that, especially during this bye week. And just whatever opponent that we face, we just got to play our type of game, and just don't look too far ahead, like you just said, and just really focus on us.
Stan, right quick, I might get bombarded, but I want to let you talk about undefeated. My 8th grade basketball coach here is Dean David. He was the master of the half-court press, and we went 20-0. All I know is no matter 8th grade, 9th grade, high school, pros, whatever, you're undefeated, you're undefeated.
I'd like to thank Jesse Turner for taking the time to do that. As a matter of fact, on Sports on the Bayou this week, we'll have Brian Wallace, the head coach of Vanderbilt Catholic. He'll tell us a little bit tomorrow on Tuesday about what he expects in that matchup with Archbishop Hannon. If you want to watch that, you could actually see it tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. It airs live on HTV. Again, we'll have Brian Wallace in that one. Again, football playoffs hot and heavy. Got some teams locally in it. I always defer and like to get the opinion of Casey Gisclair. Let's talk to Casey a little bit about what he thinks it's going to look like this weekend. It is my pleasure to be joined by Casey Gisclair. Casey a lot of times has to drive, and what I mean by that is he's the guy who started getting people to answer questions and running the show. I thought it would be kind of neat to talk to Casey about what he thinks. He sees more high school sports than probably anybody in the area. So I sort of wanted to get his viewpoint on some things. First of all, hello, how are you? How have you been?
I'm doing wonderful, Stan. How about yourself, my friend?
I am doing really, really well. Let's knock this out. Platforms. We were talking about this the other day here around the hospital. There are so many ways and so many things. You know, when anybody says we don't get the high school coverage maybe we used to have in the area, I said, you're not looking, because Casey's got it out there some way, some shape, some form. So between Bayou Sports and play-by-play and the Sports Corner and podcasts that you're going to be doing, talk to everybody a little bit about what your goal is I guess, related to getting out high school information and maybe what's on the horizon for you.
Sure, yeah. We launched Bayou Sports about 2 years ago now, and that is a fully functioning high school sports website. We get out news, we push out results, we get everything out there. And on our Facebook and our social media, we live broadcast games. I mean, like tonight, I'm going to Terrebonne for their boys basketball opener. We were at Terrebonne High on Friday for their playoff game with Chalmette. So, I mean, like, we literally live broadcast games. Through Coastal Broadcasting, I host play-by-play, which is from 11 to 1 every Monday through Friday. We are talking high school sports for at least an hour of that. And then we got the Sports Corner every Saturday from 10 to 12, where, again, we're talking high school sports. So, I mean, that's kind of some of the things that we're doing. In terms of where we're looking to go, just looking to expand. I mean, right now we have a small army. We would like to turn that into a medium-sized army. We would like to get more iPads, more boots on the ground, and just do as much as we can to promote the kids in our area. I say it all the time on the radio. It's awesome to be a student athlete. You're learning things that are going to, stay with you for the rest of your life. And we just want to promote those young men and those young women who are doing amazing things representing their schools, but also representing our community.
Well, interestingly enough, I was at that Terrebonne game, the playoff game on Friday night, and when Chalmette drove at the very end, they didn't have to drive very far. They got a big punt return. And they were down there at about the 5-yard line. I said, I'm heading to my car. And the guy who was standing next to me and said, you're not going to watch the biggest play of the game, like if they make the field goal? I said, no, I'm going to see it. I'll just look at Casey on the cell phone and see and that's actually how I saw the field goal related to Chalmette winning that game. Talk about high school football a little bit this year. I want an overview of what you thought from the Bayou. When you look back at it now, I realize we have some teams that might make a little run in Division II, and obviously CCA is very good. But when you can look back now, no more 5A teams in the playoffs, maybe an overview of what you thought the season was like for high school football.
We made some strides, right? In our local 5A district, we had one part of a trio of district champions there with Terrebonne sharing with Destran and Hanville. You have Thibodeau getting in. H.L. Bourgeois made some strides, So I think that as a whole, we kind of raised the floor a little bit. Still a little ways to go. I mean, we had some teams that really struggled this year. It was a down year for Ellender. South Terrebonne struggled. South Lafourche struggled. Central Lafourche had high hopes. They had a lot of injuries that didn't pan out. So, I mean, we do have a ways to go. But I do think that it was a really good year as a whole. We made some improvements. And the teams that you just mentioned all have opportunities to make a push. I mean, E.D. White and Vanderbilt, they are, maybe an LHSAA ruling away from possibly going to the Dome, depending on how some things go there. CCA is real strong, undefeated throughout the season. Coach Jesse Turner and his guys have done an unbelievable job there. So, yeah, man, it's a football season that has been good, and I think it's a football season that's going to last for another couple more weeks. I think we've got some local teams that could really make some noise.
I agree with that. Talk a little bit about on Friday night. Were you surprised at what happened at Tom B. Smith?
Yes, to an extent. I was not necessarily surprised that Chalmette would be able to come in and win the game. I was surprised that they were able to come in and control the line of scrimmage. I mean, that had kind of been Terrebonne's bread and butter throughout the course of the season. And, Terrebonne jumped on him early, but Chalmette was really good in special teams, man. Kick returns, punt returns. They were doing some big things to set up some short fields. And in the second half, talking to their head coach after the game, they kind of adjusted, started running some counters and some misdirections, using Terrebonne's, kind of speed against them a little bit. And they were able to get the win. I got to tell you, Stan, as surprised as I was by that result, I thought that it was also surprising that H.L. Bourgeois goes on the road and gives Hondo everything that they could handle. Thibodeau goes on the road and, gives Mandeville everything that they could handle. So, as surprising as kind of the upset in Houma was, we had a couple of Bayou teams that were some Cinderellas barely getting into the playoffs that they almost scored big upsets as well.
It was kind of interesting. We're sitting on the sideline and we're starting to get scores in from Hornville. And for a lot of the game, H.L. Bourgeois was winning it. It wasn't like they were just kind of hanging around. They were actually winning it. And then we started getting Thibodeau scores, a Mandeville team that's supposed to be really good. So I like you, I agree 100%. I think it was really nice to see those teams go out and play well. I'd like to get your thoughts on two things, and it's sort of related to the LHSAA, but I guess it's not going to be like a bashing session, so to speak. Obviously, we know what's going on with university. Today is the day where the ruling comes down. I don't even know if we're going to find out anything, to be quite honest with you, today. All that being said, between the university situation and another situation that I find sort of interesting, Vanderbilt Catholic's going to be playing Hannon, right? Hannon has one win on the year. How have we gotten to a situation where we have teams having one win on the year and we're in the second round of the playoffs and that still happens? It seems like something's wrong, or is it just me? I don't know. Your thoughts?
No, it's not just you, man. That's unacceptable. And the thing that is so interesting about this, Stan, is that when you look at some of the other brackets, it's a mad dash where 5 and 6 wins and you barely get in. But then there's these other brackets where all you got to do is roll out of bed and play 10 games and you're going to get in. So it's just not even. It's not apples to apples. It's I don't know how to fix it though. That's the problem. That's the thing that. We hear coaches all the time say, well, we don't like the system, and that's well and good. But then when we ask them for a solution, they'll be like, well, I don't know. I think that as a state, we need to better enforce the rules, obviously. But then again, when that happens, you get taken to court and, different things come of that. As a state, I think we also need probably a super class with all of these enrollment schools of 1,700, 2,000 kids competing against enrollment schools of 1,000. That's not apples to apples. Those are some things. Now look, we got the annual convention coming up in January, and it'll be very interesting to see if some of those things do get addressed.
Yeah, and listen, we certainly wish the teams locally well. E.D. White's going to be at home. Vanderbilt Catholic's going to be at home. CCA taking on Central Catholic might get a little interesting just from the standpoint that they're rivals and they've played each other. But we certainly hope that all of our teams do well. I don't know if you had noticed, I think Vanderbilt Catholic and CCA both had nice little dinners with their football teams where they sort of celebrated. My understanding is the CCA, actually, they all went in pajamas one night and did it, and they watched I was about to say Clash of the Titans, but remember the Titans. So, a little camaraderie there, a little bit of it's just kind of nice to think that when it comes down to what extracurricular sports are for and what we do it for, that these teams are kind of doing those things. It's kind of nice, right?
Oh, 100%, man. Look, at the end of the day, they're high school kids, man. You want them to make memories. You want them to enjoy themselves. You want them to, learn life lessons. And, I'll tell you a story. We have Jesse every Monday on play-by-play, and he has told us, he said, there were times this season where they had a bad practice and, the kids are expecting, okay, well, the next practice is going to be brutal. And what he did instead a couple times was, just the next day took him to the bowling alley or whatever, and, just did some team building. Just, maybe understanding that the reason for this bad practice is maybe a little burnout, especially with a school like CCA where they have so many kids playing both ways, so many kids who are, on the field for every snap. They really have juggled that workload. Vanderbilt does a lot of things. You mentioned, having dinners and different things. Coach Wallace has preached throughout the course of the year, family and brotherhood. And, just to tell you a story, here down the Bayou at South Lafourche, they have lineman dinners throughout the course of the year where the offense and defensive linemen get together and, they all take turns hosting and, they'll eat. And then after, what's kind of funny is the big boys play a flag football game against one another. So, just little things like that, man, it means a lot to those kids. And look, the wins and the losses are great. The championships are great. The reality is very few of these kids are going to play beyond the high school level. This is the stuff that makes the memories, and that's going to stick with them for the rest of their lives.
Shifting gears just a little bit to volleyball, the state of volleyball in the Bayou region, which I think has always been pretty good. But this year, I think, when you consider that, Central Lafourche goes in Division I, South Lafourche maybe has as good a year as they've ever had in volleyball. Obviously, E.D. White and Vanderbilt play really well, and they compete on the state level. CCA and Homer Christian all doing well. Your thoughts on volleyball?
Kind of interesting, right? Like, we had about the same amount of teams to get into the playoffs, but it was kind of some different representation. Like, whenever I was in school, it was Terrebonne, H.L. Bourgeois, like those schools that were ruling the roost in the area. This year was a little different. We had, South Lafourche had a really good season, as you mentioned. Central Lafourche had a 20-plus win season. Of course, there's always E.D. White and Vanderbilt making strong pushes. E.D. White just finishing a smidge away from making it to the state finals again, losing a heartbreaker to Haynes Academy. Vanderbilt a great year, CCA, Homer Christian. But that was the thing. And look, when we talk to these local coaches, they all tell you, it's no secret. It's grown so much. And the reason that it has grown so much, Stan, is they're playing younger. I mean, we have so many youth leagues now, travel teams now. I mean, we mention it all the time on the baseball scene, how travel ball has done so much for the kids in our area. Volleyball is the same way. They're playing it year-round, and it really is paying dividends. As we had a gap to close. The city schools were really kind of doing a number on the Bayou region, and we have done great work to close that gap.
I do wish, obviously, it happens, and it's understandable that E.D. White would have to play Vanderbilt in the quarters before they ever get. It would have been nice if they would have been a little bit further down the line. And obviously Haynes was really good, and they get the win over E.D. White to go to the state championship. But it would have been nice to see it maybe a little different down the line. You mentioned you got a game tonight. You're going to be covering a game tonight. Is it obviously? I think it's something that we're going to see going forward, right? Do you have a schedule for the rest of this week, or is it let's see what's available for us to be at?
So, tonight we're going to be at Terrebonne High School. They're taking on Bonneville. From there, the rest of my week is going to be filled with Nicholls State. I got Nicholls State University on ESPN Plus Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 2 basketball games and a football game. Then Friday, we're going to be at Covenant Christian Academy watching them take on Central Catholic. So we got games all 5 days this week. It's going to be loaded full. Basketball-wise, in terms of a set schedule, the way that we usually do it, we don't want to do, like the NFL does and release, a year-long schedule. And then at the end of the season, you have a game that you thought would be interesting that's not. So what we do is, we kind of reconvene on every Saturday and every Sunday. We look at the schedule together and we decide, all right, here's the ones that we want. And we kind of pick and choose from there. One thing, Stan, I can't, extend thanks enough to the local schools and the local coaches in our area because they have always welcomed us with open arms. Anything that we've needed to do, they've allowed us to do it. Just this Friday, Terrebonne and Chalmette, we didn't understand and realize that we needed permission from both schools to broadcast in the playoffs. We knew we had permission from Terrebonne, but we didn't realize that we needed, the okay from Chalmette too. Coach Scott Gottschalk, right away when we realized that, called the Chalmette Athletic Director. Like, they have gone above and beyond to allow us to do the things that we do.
So that's awesome. Now, is this a deal where CCA and Central Catholic are in the fold for this Friday night?
Yes, sir. CCA and Central Catholic will be there on Friday night broadcasting live. Yes, sir.
Awesome. So you folks out there, if you want to see that game, Bayou Sports. Again, Bayou Sports, play-by-play every day, 1600 and 102.7. Is that right?
Correct. Correct.
And then obviously on Saturdays, you can pick up the Sports Corner where you guys usually start at about 10 o'clock. Thanks for everything you do in the area. Thanks for giving us time. We want to make sure that we sort of push your platform, but we also want to do this periodically where we can find out what's going on with you. Obviously, with basketball season starting, you'll be out there at a lot of the basketball games, and we want to make sure we get that out there to everybody.
Told you on the phone, anytime you need me, I'm there, brother.
Thank you very much, Casey. Have a wonderful week. We'll catch up with you a little bit later.
You too, bud.
Always nice to have Casey on. He mentioned, we talked about volleyball a little bit. Congratulations to both E.D. White and to Vanderbilt Catholic. They made a great showing at the state tournament. It just wasn't to be for those two teams. I wish they would not have had to play each other in the quarterfinals, but they did. Big win for E.D. White. As a matter of fact, Vanderbilt wins the district title by beating E.D. White 3 weeks ago, and now they play again in Lafayette this past week, and it flip-flopped. E.D. White gets the win, but not good enough to get by Haynes in that one. But those two programs are really good. Congratulations to all of the teams in our area, as volleyball was really good in the Bayou region this past year.
You got to talk to Randy Boquet, right, Stan?
I did. I got to talk to Randy Boquet just recently, and he talked to me about all of the good things that are happening at CCA. Randy is a kind of guy who has a love for CCA, right? And he wants everything to succeed, and they're doing that in the fall. We talked about football. They're really good in football, but they're really good in cross country. They're really good in volleyball. They made a little run in the playoffs in volleyball. So it was nice to talk to Randy about all of the good things that are happening over at CCA. Here's Randy Boquet.
As I mentioned a little earlier, I am pleased to be joined by the athletic director of Covenant Christian Academy, Randy Boquet, a school that's doing some really good things here in the fall and in the wintertime. Randy, thanks for joining me. Good time to be a Lion, right?
It really is. Thanks so much for having me on, Stan. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're having a tremendously successful, early year this year. And things are very exciting. The kids are all excited. You can feel it around the school.
Let's talk about each of the sports. Football first. Obviously, you are a district champion. You are 10-0. You probably have the most tenure of any of the guys in the athletic department there. Of course, you and Mr. Jackson, who is now in administration. That being said, it has to be conducive to a good atmosphere around campus, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I remember from as you mentioned, from my older days, back when we were at HL, I mean, the whole entire environment of the school. I mean, your grades tend to go up, discipline, it improves. There's just a feeling of excitement everywhere, and it's just really, really good for the school. It's just a tremendous morale booster for the school, and just everybody that that school pride kicks in, and it's just really, really echoes success.
10-0, as I mentioned, district champions by last week, going to be playing this Friday. Home game at John L. And when I say John L. Guidry on the campus of Nicholls State University. Expecting a big crowd this Friday night?
Oh, absolutely. I said this at the early part of the season. I consider this to be arguably one of, if not possibly, the most talented team that we've ever had here at CCA in football. I mean, Coach Turner has done just an amazing job. His staff, the kids, they all bought in. They played exceptionally well. And it's just been a tremendously fun ride to watch and to be a part of. And, man, we're just excited. We feel like we are healthy. We got a lot of momentum. The kids are excited. And we can't wait for that game to get here.
Pardon the ignorance of this question. Would it be home? Let's assume you go on a run and you're winning in the playoffs. Would it be home at Nicholls all the way up into the dome?
Again, I feel just like you. From what I have heard and seen, I believe so. We are so high in the bracket. I think that's the way it's going to fall. Which that's what you work for, but that's why you work so hard during the off season and everything else. And you try to have the best season you can to get that, at that position in the bracket.
Listen, I don't want to not talk about volleyball. You had a great volleyball season this year. You sort of got what we call the legendary staff there. When you get Pete Verrett to come back and assist, and you have, Craig Hamner, who's been there for a couple of years, and they both come from the public school system with a lot of wins under their belt. A great season. Unfortunately, they get knocked out in the second round of the playoffs. Talk about volleyball just a little bit.
Well, you said it, Coach. I mean, when you talk about Peter Verrett, you mentioned Peter Verrett's name and volleyball. And I mean, he's one of the who's who. He's one of the legends around this area. Anybody that plays any kind of, volleyball in this area knows who Peter Verrett is. And he's just a tremendous asset to our program. And, Craig's really done a great job assembling these girls, and they work so hard. And yes, it was a tremendous season. It was so much fun to watch them. One of the most talented teams, again, that we've had in recent memory. And, we did get a little side rail. It was a hard fought game. But hey, Coach Hamner is extremely excited, and so is Coach Verrett, and we're excited about the future of our volleyball program.
And listen, we're here to brag about all of the programs. A lot of people don't realize what your cross country has done. Alicia Carey has kind of led that team where both the boys and the girls are your district champs. It's a situation where, quite honestly, in your district, I guess participation in cross country across the board with all the teams in your district is not quite the same. Yet there are obviously district championships to be won, and you did that in cross country, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. There's not a big cross country, showing in our current district and all that. But at the same time, that's not Coach Carey's fault, and that's not our kids' fault. She put together an outstanding team. The kids worked very, very hard, and they earned it, and they're extremely excited. We did very well at regionals, and now we're headed to the state. And hey, I can't be any more proud of what Coach Carey and what those kids have done.
By the way, folks, the state championships for cross country actually starting today as we drop on Monday, and it'll go throughout the week. So we wish the best for those kids from CCA and all of our local kids. And finally, in the middle of all of this fall and winter madness, you have basketball starting. Now, basketball is going to be pushed back on the boys' side a little bit because of what your football team's doing. Because on the single A level, quite honestly, you sort of have to give and take just a little bit related to the schedule. The girls are going to get started. They had jamborees last week for basketball, but you also had a signing for baseball where Mason Canter gets to go on and play at Nicholls State University. So I would think that is encouraging to the rest of your student body to see a young man who has the opportunity to compete, on the college level, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we have always done here at CCA. We have always taken a few moments to honor any type of athletic or academic college type, scholarship or award. That's one of the things I'm very proud of. We make it a big deal. We actually have the school, go to the sanctuary, and Mr. Hutch says a few words, and we want all of our students to see what hard work, what determination, what all that what the payoff is potentially for you if you put in the work. And the young man we honored is going to be another example of that.
Well, listen, Randy, thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on all the success. It's not over yet. There's a ways to go. We wish you the best going forward.
We're excited. We're pumped up. Don't forget, we got basketball coming, and right around the corner before you know it, it's going to be baseball season.
Yep, soccer. Don't want to forget soccer either.
Absolutely. Soccer is going to be great too. So
that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold you to it. Later on, we'll get back with you in the spring, and we'll do another one just like this to let everybody know exactly what's going on campus.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Randy.
All right, man.
I'd like to thank Randy. You notice we finished it up with Mason Canter. Mason Canter, a special athlete over at CCA, really good baseball player. Could have chosen a lot of schools to cast his lot to play in the future. Decided that he wanted to go to Nicholls State University. Here's his signing, and it's interesting. The principal of CCA is going to tell you all what's in a letter of intent. Because a lot of times you guys are curious. It's like, what is a letter of intent? What does it mean when you sign a letter of intent? Jason Hutchison, the principal of CCA, is actually going to read what's in the letter of intent. You're going to hear a little bit from Mason's dad, Fred, and you're also going to hear from his high school coach, Joe Tutone, on how special it is to sign at the next level It was a fun day that day. Let's tune into that.
His mama probably drove 250,000 miles of tournaments and baseball and football and all that stuff. But we want to thank and respect Mr. Fred for being here. I'm going to actually read what it says, because this is an actual letter of intent we have today. It is live, it is the real thing. On behalf of the financial aid of Nicholls State University, we are excited to inform you that you have been offered an athletic scholarship for the 25-26 academic year to the extent indicated in the accompanying grant and aid agreement. Our coaching staff has evaluated you as a student athlete and look forward to you making an immediate impact on our program. Please note how important it is for you to finish your year strong, both academically and athletically. If you have any questions, you can call in. But congratulations on your past accomplishments and best wishes for continued success at Nicholls State University. We're so excited to welcome you to the Colonel family and look forward to watching you excel.
See all of these people, all of y'all out here, you don't realize how important you're all to him and to us as a family.
Appreciate everybody being here. Since I've got here in 2008, this is a really big deal today. Everybody should really be proud of this. The team, the family, friends and family. This is a huge accomplishment. In 2008, when we got to CCA, this is what we have imagined. We have imagined this for the school, for every sport in general. But, you know, I don't know how many years that is since I've been here, but this is the first time I've had a Division I athlete. And I just want to say I'm very honored to be a part of your journey, blessed to have you, really, really excited to have you back. I think you can be the piece that finishes the puzzle so we can get it done come May.
That was a wonderful day with Mason. I want to finish things up by telling you about swimming and cross country. Swimming is happening in Sulphur. The Divisions 3 and 4 finals are going to happen on Wednesday. The Division 1 and 2 finals are going to happen on Friday. Beautiful place over there in Sulphur. Congratulations to all of our swimmers who made the swim finals. I am going to let you know who did well at that meet next week. So I can't wait to kind of pass on to you what schools, what individuals from our area did well in the swim meet. Not to be outdone, there is cross country going on in Natchitoches. That is happening actually today, Monday. So we'll let you know how everybody did related to that. As you can tell, a little under the weather. Hopefully by next Monday, that'll be a little bit better too. But we wish all of our teams that are still in the football playoffs well. We hope that they do well. We wish all of our swimmers, all of our runners well. And next week, we'll be back to give you more information on the high schools. We hope you're here with us. And we'll see you 1 week from today. Take care, everybody.